Alright everyone, welcome back.
そんな都合のいいことを思いもしなかったなんて。
She smiles ever so slightly at the monologue. As if drifting off to sleep, the witch slowly closes her eyelids, as if to bury herself in this short-lived dream. She held tightly onto this moment from which she will eventually awaken. This is yet another fragment. A fragment that has already passed on, broken into pieces, and after faltering for a brief moment within the heart of the bearer, ceases to resist and simply flows away. So that with only the mind she could not exist, and with only the body she could not leave footprints. At the very least, the spring that did not come could be admired, unbeknownst to others, at this paradise of a town. Wallpaper added to the special menu. 2. Oh boy. Call it a day. Oh, it's quiet. I gaze at the pleasant blue sky. Taking a break after a meal to enjoy some tea out on the veranda is a particularly special reward. It is the very ordinary nature that makes such everyday happiness the best.
それで調べてみたら該当するサーバントとマスターがいたわ。聖杯戦争が開始してから4日目で脱落したのはアインツベルンのそこボケっとしない。せっかく調べてきてあげたんだからちゃんと報告を聞きなさい。
いや、あれ、遠さか。
I'm momentarily confused. I look down to find Tosaka sitting beside me.
遠さかじゃないわよ。まさかあんた今の話全部聞き流したって言うんじゃないでしょうね。
A sarcasm-free, direct-to-the-point question that is very uncharacteristic of Tosaka. The Tosaka air is infuriated to the point of forgetting her own family's always elegant motto.
すまん、聞いてなかった。そもそもなんでここに遠坂がいるんだ？
I'm worried that she might have just teleported here or something. I truly don't have any memory of Tosaka coming out here and sitting down next to me.
何？もしかして私が帰ってきたことも分かってないの？
バカ言うな。そこまでボケてないぞ。多分遠坂が隣に座って羽を伸ばし始めたのに気づかなくて、話しかけられてもこれまた気づかなかっただけだ。
それ十分ボケてるけど仕方ないわね。変な夢っていうかエミヤくんはまだ4日間に苛まれてるんでしょ。疲れてるってことで見逃してあげるわ。
ああ、重ねてすまん。自分でも今のはちょっと怖い。それとなんだ、別に寝ぼけてるわけじゃないからそう覗き込まないでくれ。
そうよね。ちょい近すぎた。
Tosaka leaps to her feet. Until a moment ago, she was incredibly close to simply pushing me down.
じゃあもう一回だけ説明するわね。あなたの言う4日間が何なのかってことだけど、それが何者かが聖杯にかけた願いだって仮定を採用するとする。この何者かが何なのかを知る手がかりはやっぱり4日間の縛りだと思うのよ。はじめ聖杯にも限界があって4日間しか再現できないものかとも思ったんだけど、それなら1日を永遠に繰り返せばいいわけでしょ。聖杯の力を節約するなんて意図はないと思うの。
だよな。聖杯は持ち主、召喚者の願いを叶えるだけのものだ。そこに自分の魔力をセーブしようなんて考えはない。
そうだから4日間でセーブしている理由は他にある。 聖杯の契約者は何らかの理由で4日間しか聖杯戦争を再現できないのよ。で、ここで重要なのは開始でも再開でもない再現ってことね。エミヤ君、この意味わかる？
そりゃなんとなく。そいつは一度聖杯戦争を体験していて、そいつを再現してるってことだよな。
よくできました。そこにさえ気づけばあとは自明の理よ。4日間しか再現できないのは聖杯の力が足りないからじゃない。そいつは4日間しか聖杯戦争を体験できなかった。4日目で脱落したから、そいつにとってその先の聖杯戦争は再現できないのよ。
そいつってのは4日目で脱落したマスターってことか。けどそんなやついなかったぞ。
私たちの聖杯戦争にはね。で、以前の聖杯戦争の記録を調べてみたら、ちょうど4日目で退場したマスターがいて。
以前の聖杯戦争なんて関係ないだろう。再現してるのは俺たちの聖杯戦争なんだから。
そう思うでしょ？けどちょっと違うのよ。あくまで例え話なんだけど、あなたの言う4日間は白紙の脚本で、私たちは役者なんだと思う。この脚本は白紙だから役者たちは好き勝手アドリブできるんだけど、たとえ白紙でも4日間という上演時間だけは決まってるから。
So you're just gonna cut off mid-sentence and just like go away? Tosaka jumps backwards.
遠さか？
結界が反応しかけてる。シロ、一緒に来て。外に良くないお客さんよ。
ほんとだ。小さいけど警報が鳴ってる。鳴る前によく気づいたな、遠さか。
She's likely to set up a similar barrier around herself as well. Ever since leaving for London, Tosaka's power has been steadily rising. What an ominous prospect. Right on Tosaka's heels, I head outside. Without turning to face me, Tosaka gestures behind her back for me to stay on the alert and cover her. I reply with a nod and ready myself for a battle. Facing Tosaka now is a woman I've never seen before. In the flesh, that is.
こんにちは。こんないい天気に何のご用かしら。魔術協会の魔術師さん？
それはこちらのセリフです。ここはエミヤ切り継ぐしの屋敷と聞きましたが、なぜあなたが出てくるのです？確か彼には養子がいるということですが。
エミヤ君に用ですか？彼はあなたたち協会にはまだ関わりはないはずです。伝言があるのでしたら私が代理として承りますけど。
Tosaka's grinning, but there's a firm rejection written all over her face. In reply,
今あなたと戦う気はありません。
So you do intend to fight us down the line?
いたずらに警戒されては私も反応してしまう。ここでは人目もある。魔術刻印を止めなさい。
The woman casually pushes back. It seems like Tosaka has activated the crest on her left arm. Having her potential insurance against a surprise attack seen through so quickly makes her grow even more agitated. But Tosaka should have already realized how meaningless it is. The woman standing before us isn't looking for a fight, nor does it seem like she's planning on a surprise attack. That's because her power as a magus is easily 3 times the level of Tosaka's. If this woman made up her mind to fight us, she wouldn't even need a surprise attack to overpower us completely.
わかりました。今日は視察だけということでいいのですね。
ねえ、マスターとして戦いに来たのではありませんから。しかし不用心なのは感心できませんね。日中だからとセイバーを連れていないとは。
セ セイバーを連れていない？
Tosaka's voice sounds a touch perplexed.
そうか、お互い生きているということはまだ出会っていないのか。話は簡潔に済ませた方がいいということですね。
I can't make heads or tails of this monologue of hers. The woman's gaze is fixed on Tosaka. The conversation doesn't match up. All it will take is a mention of the date, servants, or even the woman calling Tosaka by name. Neither Tosaka nor the woman seem to notice the chasm that will make itself known the moment one of them misses a step. A balancing act precarious enough to send shivers down my spine. This is a miracle on the level of walking across a bottomless pit on a tightrope. I look on wordlessly. I don't know how many times now Tosaka's told me not to interfere should a maggots from the association come. As I survey the woman standing before me, I feel dazed, or more accurately, astonished. The one who wasn't there, who shouldn't have existed at all, the eighth master.
おかしな話ですね。今になってエミやキリツグの遺産を鑑定しに来たのですか？彼は教会には属さないフリーランスの魔術師のはずですが。
エミヤ氏の遺産をどうするかは私の管轄ではありません。私は前回の聖杯戦争の勝者である彼に興味があるだけです。それはあなたとて同じでしょ。この町に眠る聖杯を得るため、こうしてエミヤ邸に訪れているのですから。
え？
Tosaka's doubt turns into confidence. This misaligned gears have shifted back into place, and this disjointed conversation has finally started to make sense.
ちょっと待って、聖杯って教会は何を勘違いしてるの？聖杯戦争は終わったのよ。今回の儀式が大失敗して聖杯を召喚する礎そのものがなくなった。冬季の聖杯戦争は第5次で終わったでしょ。
A magnificent sense of balance, and yet she slipped up. Of course, tightrope walking cannot continue on forever. It's an obvious fact that yet this woman still came all the way here. Why?
確認するわ。あなた、第5次聖杯戦争がもう終わったと言った？
I feel a chill. If she were to nod, a fistfight would occur the very next instant. And yet, despite tremendous bloodlust emanating from the woman, Tosaka goes ahead and nods right in front of her.
ええ、この町にはもう奇跡は呼び出されない。第5次聖杯戦争は聖堂教会が派遣した監督役琴峰綺麗の違法によって幕を下ろした。あなたたちだけでなく教会側も彼の死をもってこの土地から手を引いたわ。
琴峰、綺麗。
Something falls. Though the woman was ready to use her strength to push away even the fact of the Holy Grail War being over, at the sound of that single name, she lets the mask of steel fall away.
琴峰が死んだ？
ええ、半年前に死んでいる。彼は第5次聖杯戦争の勝者であるエミヤ四郎に倒されたわ。
Tosaka's eyes shift towards me.
エミヤ四郎。そんなマスターは知らない。いえ、今回の聖杯戦争に勝者がいるなんてそんな。
There's no way. There's no way I'll recognize one, says the burning hatred in the woman's eyes. Several seconds pass. Tosaka takes a step forward, protecting me.
ねえ、さっきから気になっていたんだけど、 聞いていいかしら。あなた、その片腕どうしたの？
She asks a very odd question.
え？
Two surprised voices make themselves heard. As though suddenly remembering something, the woman reaches out her right hand to her left arm, and everything comes falling down. I had no time to call out to her. The woman flees at full speed, running as though she'd just seen a ghost. Although if you'd asked me, I'd say it was Tosaka and I who were visited by one.
魔術協会も人材不足ね。末端の管理ができていないのかしら。
Either she has no desire to chase after the woman, or she doesn't dare try. After saying a line that sounds like she read it from the script, Tosaka turns around to face me.
ま、今のでしばらくは寄りつかないでしょう。なんか精神的に不安定なやつだったけど、実力は本物よ。私たちだけで戦ったら返り討ちにされてたし、勝手に帰ってくれてラッキーだったわ。で、エミヤくん、今の人を知ってる？私は初めて見る顔だったけど。
いや、俺も初めて見る顔だった。
そう。けど、ものの見事に無視されたわね。凄腕の魔術師だったけど、エミヤくんが魔術師だってことは気づかなかったみたい。
いや、今のは無視っていうより、初めから目に入っていなかった感じだった。
So she's one of those types who thinks that the vast difference in our level of ability makes me unworthy of her consideration. Suddenly, my training feels very inadequate.
なら大変ね。彼女、きっとあなたの敵よ。なんとかしたかったら、セイバーの手を借りなさい。
And so, Tosaka directs a backward glance at me, her brightness of a moment ago vanishing.
何が言いたいのかわからないんだが、もし戦うならセイバーと2人で行けって？
そう。それでも無理ならランサーに相談しなさい。あいつだったら彼女の手の内は知っているでしょうし。
This encounter, a conversation spanning only a few minutes, was enough for Tosaka to grasp the workings of the whole situation. But that is all. She isn't about to suggest a way out of it.
先に戻ってるわ。この件に関して私はもう不干渉だから、解決したいのならあなただけで解決して。
Saying so coldly over her shoulder, Tosaka heads back indoors.
いい女だな、あいつ。
Those words just slip out for some reason. This doesn't mean that Tosaka's abandoning me. Just the opposite. It feels like she's done all she can to give me a chance. The first year was spent deciding who to hate. For a long time, he had been living in happiness. He was born in a plain, not so wealthy family. He had parents that were normal and a sister much younger than him. He woke up early in the morning, helping his father in the forest carrying back the yield of the day into the village. That word of his was simple. His everyday life didn't change. That work had gone on for decades. His father and his father's father probably entered the forest and lived under the grace of the mountain the same way. Just like his father and grandfather, he was also going to live a dull and boring life. There was the restlessness of youth, but he knew that would leave him as the years passed. A roof to sleep under, enough food not to starve, and the warmth of his neighbors. That was all he could ever ask for. But why did it have to turn out like that? Villagers were at least entitled to this dull life. It hadn't been a rich village, but it brimmed with the rightness of being able to live normally and die quietly. The other villagers weren't any different from him. The other villagers thought of him as one of them. This vexes him even now. Nothing had suddenly gone wrong. There was no mistake anywhere. The choice that was made had been undeniably the will of humanity, including himself. That's why it still vexes him even now. Had it at least been the will of heaven, he could have cursed God's cruelty and been done with it. Filthy demon. It came without any warning, as naturally as saying good morning to another. First the eyes. Leaving the house, he went towards the woods like always. He said hello to a passing neighbor, but was ignored. The disaster took place in the middle of the village. Villagers he had never met surrounded him, and he would never return there again. Hey, leave the left eye. The ceremony was performed calmly. Apparently, he had been the devil himself. This fact, unknown even to him until now, left the people in grief and disgust. Finally, the anger rose up, and his fate was decided. Damn noisy he is. We should take care of the throat. There was more doubt than fear within him. Why? Why do this? Why did this happen? Why did it have to be him of all people? After all, no matter how hard he thought about it, there wasn't a trace of pretext to be found. And on top of that, how? Yeah, as long as he can breathe, I guess. How could they do such a thing? Cut the tendons in his arms and legs. Only the tendons, mind you. His body belongs to everyone in this village. He must leave enough for everyone. Several men took care of the ceremony. Cursed by almost everyone he knew, his arms and legs lost their function even while retaining their shape. This is your punishment for not endowing our lives with abundance, they said. And they meted out appropriate punishment to every part of his body. Cut his tongue off too, as if we'd give him the satisfaction of letting him die. Insulted by many of those he knew, he was covered in filth. This is what you get for threatening our lives, they said, and every part of his body rewarded their discontent. Serves you right, you damn demon. That was the end of him as an individual human. His emotions were destroyed by the pain of losing his body. His rational mind was destroyed from the sorrow of losing his dignity. I'll slaughter you. And so, he had been kneeling for who knows how long. Not a single moan escaped him. The branch piercing through his throat had started to rot. His tongue had been ripped out long ago. His vocal organs had become inflamed after a night of screaming. Why? People that knew him, people that didn't know him, he was abused by everyone alike. The administering of justice needs no reason. They, with their righteous anger and morals, hated the demon confined atop the mountain without an ounce of shame. The likes of you should not live, they laughed. Yet they would not even do him the kindness of killing him. Hatred begets more hatred. Going beyond terror and confusion, a hatred was eventually born within him. But who must this hatred be directed at? Why? 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 He thought and spoke the question too many times to count. Even as one of his eyes was crushed, and as his fingers were cut off by some scissor-like tool, the words he managed to squeeze out of his throat were, "Why me?" None of the villagers would tell him. Please stop. Please send me back. Please save me. He did not put voice to those wishes he had already given up hope on. He'd accepted it when the last of his fingers and toes, the big toe on his left foot, was cut off by the person who had once been his father. He had only seen a single wish left. Why me? The question alone was his final request, but nobody would tell him. The moment he realized the answer, he became a real demon. There was no reason as to why he was a demon. There was no reason for him to be chosen as a sacrifice. To begin with, the village elders, the people in power, never even knew him. Anyone would have been fine. It was not that he was hated because of his sins. Neither was he isolated because of his good deeds. As a completely dull, ordinary person, he was chosen completely by chance. Just for the sake of a one-day luxury, people he never met ended the life of a human they never knew. That's all there is to it. Merely to fulfill the desires of a single night, his life, fostered well for decades, was trampled upon and crushed. This world is governed by things that are not people. The moment he realized that, he decided upon the target of his hatred. All the evil in the world. The revered effigy thus became a genuine demon. An egg that would never hatch. An anti-hero of this world. That would rid it of all its sins. He had no limbs to struggle in pain. His limbs were completely severed. Only his heart was still alive. No arms, no legs, no dignity left. He had no functions as a human, but his sense of pain alone had yet to fail him. He took on countless amount of hatred, while bringing forth hatred just as infinite. His collapsed personality gained order in its own broken way. He was stone. Never going outside the stone prison, his body wasn't allowed to move at all. The eyelid of his remaining left eye was fixed, not allowing it to close. His dry, cracked eyeball continued to stare at the outside world. He was just like a stone statue that was conscious. Without taking a single step, he watched the unchanging scenery for a month, a year, decades. He could neither avert nor close his eye. The treatment that would make him forget the fact that he was still alive before the tedium sickened his mind, in fact, continued until his death. What frightened him, however, was the fact that his torture, difficult to bear for even a single day, would last for his entire lifetime. A healthy person's sanity would surely fall apart in no more than 7 days. Or shorter. What allowed him to endure it, what preserved his soul, was the fact that his sanity had already been broken. Unchanging scenery wouldn't break him. That which spread beneath his eye was his hometown. The people that called him a demon as they turned him into a real one. The village that hatred came from. He had an unbroken view of it all. A repulsive mass of goodwill, prospering by sacrificing the weak. He will continue to hate as long as he lives. This absurdity. The hidden repulsiveness of mankind. The overly tolerant world that approved of it. All that's left in this stone prison is the hatred that has been scorched in. Neither the personality nor the body that once belonged to him are in here. The soul in his physical body was annihilated long ago. It has already become something else. Only the hatred born from within him continues to smolder within his body, even to this day. Who knows how many years passed like that? To him, having lost his sense of time, the world continued its dizzying transformation even as it stagnated. The ties he had from back then when he was human were no exception. The people that chose him, the people that took away his legs and arms, the people that were his blood relatives, the people that hated him, the people that he loved. Their hatred did not last as long as that held by the humans they sacrificed. Those who stole everything from him disappeared from this world before he did. Like shooting stars. The strong, merciless flicker of the ever-coming days burned into his eyeball. For a long time, he was left in that sunny spot. He saw so many lives. The result of too many meaningless lives. Consuming time and space, burning up their own lives recklessly. Bearing children, amassing riches, yet ending without a trace. How lost they may have been, they were not void. Although they ended, it wasn't as though they did not continue. The wheel of time keeps turning. Lives wither, then bloom again. The cycle of prosperity and decay. The scenery before him kept on spinning. There were times of destruction, overrun by believers of a different faith. There were times of expansion, taking in fresh blood. Throughout it all, he continued to stare with hatred. Hatred was the only means by which he could connect to it. There's evil atop this mountain, breathing malice into all of us. That became a teaching passed down in the village since old times. As long as there was hatred, as long as he was hated, he would not die. The new villagers hated, worshipped, and thanked him as their everyday enemy. The young man who had become the demon didn't even exist there anymore. Hatred that gave birth to nothing. A blank space that existed to help life advance smoothly day after day. An open hole in their everyday life. A dumping ground that received all their overflowing emotions. What a convenient, false void that could never become anything. That village too disappeared in a flash. Neither decaying nor prospering. Times changed. People changed, and the mountain village, having fulfilled its role, went back to being an open field. Everything he hated disappeared without a trace. His name and body had been lost, and he had even lost sight of his soul. And in the end, even hatred left him behind. And yet he is still connected to this place. Many years passed. People perished, the village perished, but even after his own body died, he cannot move from here. The hatred burned into this place is unchanging and undying. As long as the world of humans continues on, it will exist forever. In this empty wasteland. Forever gazing at the end of the world. And like that, I finally opened my eyes.